Good evening and welcome to the RWB International Big Grid Race here at Monza. I am Rob Lomas and I'm going to be leading the commentary this evening, and tonight I am joined by Racer.
Good evening, Rob.
And Slip. So we are just watching the end of qualifying now, as most of the field is in pits. Just waiting to see if anyone is likely to improve. We're currently looking at Eddie Warden in the venerable Emil Fry built Jaguar XKR, and he currently is pushing quite hard by the looks of things coming through the second Lesmo. In fact, a little bit too hard, and yeah, that's going to be the end of his qualifying session.
Nothing to lose really there.
Yeah, not really. I mean, he's already third on the grid, and just see, classic mistake of two wheels in the gravel, losing the back end, and going across the track into the wall. So, a couple of other cars on track at the moment, one of whom is RWB Godzilla, who is not in a Nissan GTR as usual, but he's in an Audi R8 LMS for tonight. No doubt maybe a little bit of testing prior to the resumption of the Constructors' Championship in January. He has crossed the line, so has a few other drivers. Just looking at Matt Sjöblom there in 38th place on the grid.
48 people on the grid, Rob?
Yeah,
is that right?
Good. Yeah, looks like 48 to me. So a good turnout tonight, and this is going to be pretty good. Oh no, in fact, excuse me, there's actually 55 drivers on the field. So
we had some late joiners here, I think, over the past few minutes.
Yes, some very late joiners indeed. We'll do a quick rundown through the field right now. On pole position for the first race is Oscar Sandberg in one of the new BMW M4 GT3s. BMW making its debut tonight in RWB International. Second place on the grid is Gert Fischer in the 78 BMW. And row 2 on the grid is Eddie Warden and Corbin in the Mercedes AMG GT3. The third row of the grid is Moore and Alexander. Moore in the 91 Audi, Alexander in the BMW M4 GT3 as well. Fourth row of the grid is RWB Godzilla and Mr. Git. Godzilla in the Audi, as we mentioned earlier. Mr. Git in the number 13 BMW. The fifth row of the grid is McCain and Nathaniel Shirley, both also in BMW M4 GT3s. The sixth row of the grid is Florentin and Olivier Kierton. Florentin in the McLaren and Kierton in the Honda NSX. Simmons is 13th ahead of Mo Plate on the 7th row of the grid. Simmons in the Nissan GTR and Plate in another Audi R8 LMS. Crawford Brown is 15th on the grid in another venerable old classic from the GT3 era, the McLaren 650S, alongside Jones in the 84 BMW M4 GT3. Solberg is in 17th place in the 27 Mercedes, ahead of Ross Hayden in the number 86 BMW M4 GT4. Debug is in 19th place ahead of Phil Varley, and it's awesome to see Phil back in an RWB race. He's one of the gold graded drivers as well, so it's going to be very interesting to see how he gets on. Damien Vilk is in 21st place, ahead of Magnus Dahlgren. Vilk in the Lamborghini. You can see Dahlgren's McLaren there on the right. On the next row of the grid, we've got McLaughlin in the Porsche and Miko Sky in the Bentley Continental GT3. On the 13th row of the grid, we've got Mitchell in a BMW M4 GT4 ahead of Xavier Eugeni in the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. On the 14th row of the grid, we've got Samuel Kruger and Bouvier in a Honda NSX GT3. On the 15th row of the grid, we've got RWB Pinpoint.
You're halfway done.
Himself in the, oh, indeed we are, in the 46 Bentley Continental GT3. And alongside him, it's Mad Out in the number 6 Lamborghini. On the, I'm just going to ignore counting the rows now because we have only got a minute till the race starts. On the next row of the grid, we've got Dev in the 65 McLaren and Nico Perez in the 22 Audi. On the next row of the grid, we've got Hodgson in the 63 Lamborghini from Gerlov in the 23 McLaren. Then it's Ferguson in the 14 BMW from Rick Binnersley in the 889 Lamborghini. On the next row of the grid, we've got Szczepaniak in the Aston Martin ahead of Matt Scherblum in a BMW M4 GT4. In 39th on the grid, we have Troy Adams in the Bentley Continental GT3, and alongside him is Girard in the number 3 Ferrari. On the next row of the grid, we've got Vakayan in a BMW M4 and Butler in a Mercedes AMG GT3. Then we have Burley in the 43 Aston Martin from Emil Scherblum in the 747 Lexus. Then it's Barton in the 85 Honda NSX and Jack Camaletto in the 777 Lamborghini. And finally, in 47th and at the back of the grid for this race is Marko Podofsky in the 64 Lamborghini. Just about managed it.
Very good job.
And we are doing a full warm-up lap here at Monza ahead of the opening race. 30 minutes long. We've got another 30-minute race coming up as well. And we can see drivers all filing down the long start-finish straight here at Monza into the Rettifilo. You can see the little bit of tarmac in the middle just easing the corner there. That was introduced for the World Superbikes after the World Superbike riders were having issues getting around there because, of course, the slower and tighter the corner, the more difficult and the harder it is to get a motorcycle around there, which is why you see quite a lot of embarrassing looking low speed offs at the hairpin up at Mallory Park in the UK. Currently coming round Curva Grande now, looking at AJ Jones there in the number 84 BMW M4, complete with a Fanatec steering wheel, which you can actually buy yourself for your sim rig if you have 1,400 euros just casually lying around. Coming up now.
Please give.
Yes, for testing purposes, please. Seriously. It's coming through the Veranti Della Roggia now on board with Xavier Eugeni in the Ferrari 488 GT3 on home soil here at Monza. Now coming towards the first Lesmo. There appears to be someone off the track as well. Try and find out who that is. Coming through the first Lesmo now and that was now looking at Rick Binnersley in the Lamborghini. Oh, Josh Butler coming into the first Lesmo as well. And that is a McLaren there trying to rejoin position in the field. Coming out of the second Lesmo now, we're on board with Jake Moore heading up to the Veranti Ascari, named after the great Ascari racing father and son, in fact, of Antonio and Alberto Ascari. Alberto being the first multiple Formula 1 world champion. Now coming down this long back straight here towards the Parabolica. There's currently a car showing in the pits, And it's around about here that the drivers will start to form up 2 by 2, and we can see Oscar Sandberg on the right and Geert Fischer on the left. And there appears to be cars slowing down and going all over the place as everyone tries to do one last.
Man, look at all those cars.
Yes, it is.
It's amazing.
The fastest, loudest, and possibly most expensive traffic jam in all of Milan coming out of the Parabolica. It's Oscar Sandberg bringing them around to the start-finish line. Geert Fischer alongside him. 30 minutes about to start soon here at Monza. Almost perfect 2 by 2 formation, and it's a good start from Geert Fischer and Oscar Sandberg. Sandberg retaining the lead, Fischer trying to get into the slipstream of him, but there's Eddie Warden in the big Jaguar alongside as they all come streaming down the pit straight, heading into the Rettifilo for the first time. Are they going to all get through cleanly? It's still Sandberg, Fischer, Warden. We're having a look in the background to see. Oh, and there's absolute carnage behind that. It's Mercedes getting spun off there, and Chris Corbin's involved, and there are a lot of cars involved in that. There's a lot of damaged cars, unfortunately.
That is carnage.
Yeah, that is indeed carnage. In fact, there's already a driver showing us having a drive-through penalty down towards the bottom of the field for Cayenne. Already showing as having a drive-through penalty for Cayenne in a BMW M4, currently in 32nd place. And Chris Corbin has come into the pits, so has Mitchell. Currently looking at Truus Solberg, who's one of the drivers involved in that. It's still Oscar Sandberg leading, though, in the BMW M4 GT3 alongside Geert Fischer. Moore is up into 3rd place in the Audi. Eddie Warden dropping down a spot to 4th. There.
I think Eddie maybe been involved in the beginning of that. I'm not really sure. It looked like him and the Mercedes possibly, but he looks like he escaped.
Yeah, I think they were starting quite close together on the grid, Eddie Warden and Chris Corbin. So we'll see what happens with that as RWB Godzilla takes the fastest lap of the race.
I think the Jag got the right side wheels in the setup right here, and yeah.
Meanwhile, Warden and Moore are battling away behind the 2 BMWs here. We'll just wait and see who is where as they come past the first timing split. Still Sandberg from Fischer. Moore from Warden, although Moore and Warden are still almost side by side coming into the Verranti della Roggia, and they've got Alexander and RWB Godzilla all in close company right there. They come into the first Lesmo.
That's a good battle.
Yeah, and coming up to the second Lesmo now. Of course, the Lesmos used to be much, much, much closer to where the tyre barrier was, and in fact, the second Lesmo was actually flat out in a Formula One car back in the early 1990s. If you were sufficiently brave enough. Two
4-car packs right there. It looks like they might even become an 8-car pack.
Yeah, it's currently on board with RWB Godzilla coming out to the Verranti Ascari now in the Audi there. And we've got Joshua McLaughlin in the Porsche battling with Samuel Kruger in the Audi. McLaughlin running a little wide there. He's also showing as having quite high ping as well, as Damien Vilk is just waiting there, biding his time in the background in the Lamborghini. Meanwhile, we're now looking at Nathaniel Shirley in the BMW M4 GT3. He's got debug right with him for company in the big Bentley, and I would say that that Bentley is pushing a very big hole in the air, but the BMW M4 isn't the smallest of cars either. And Debug is having a look on the brakes around the outside for the first part of the chicane, backs off. They still going side by side, and Debug gets a better exit out of the corner and takes 14th place from Nathaniel Shirley, and now Magnus Dahlgren is trying to get involved in the McLaren 720S as Gert Fischer has come into the pits, I have noticed as well, dropping well down the field there to 37th place. Meanwhile, we're still on board with Nathaniel Shirley. Big old hit in the curbs there, on the sausage curbs on the inside of Ranti Ascari in the first part, and that just sent him properly wide on the second part. Now back on board with Josh McLaughlin in the Porsche, as him and one of the McLarens is battling with Damian Vilk. Now on board with Marco Badowski. Marco is one of the quickest regular drivers in RWB, so going to be quite interesting indeed to see where he ends up. Meanwhile, we're now looking at Josh Barton in the Honda NSX, and he's got Camaletto, Giro, Hodgson all with him for company. It's looking like it's going to be a pretty tasty battle in the next couple of laps, as Vikayan is now showing as having, if a drive-through penalty wasn't bad enough as is, he's now showing as having a stop and go plus 30 seconds. For that matter as well. Yeah, it's not ideal here at Monza. Back on board with Barton in the Honda NSX GT3, coming around the Parabolica now. Of course, a couple of years ago, they put some sausage curbs on the outside of the Parabolica to try and stop drivers from running wide, which ended rather infamously with GP3 driver Alex Peroni having one of the scariest accidents you could imagine, as he basically hit the curb and took off. So you do not want to hit them at all. Still looking at Nathaniel Shirley in the M4 with Debug right there with him in 11th place at the moment. His MO plates ahead of AJ Jones by just over a second there. You see Debug and Shirley in the background. This is, as mentioned earlier, the first race for the new M4 GT3. There's 12 of them in the field.
Weren't there two at the top in the top two? What happened to the second driver?
Gert Fischer, I think, has had a technical issue of some kind because he just jumped straight to the pits. So,
oh man, yeah.
I don't want to speculate too much as to what that issue is at the moment, as we see McLaughlin joining Vikayan in the pits. But yeah, it's been quite an eventful start to the race so far.
Uh-oh. Looks like a McLaren and a Bentley contact through Ascara.
Oh yeah, it was RWB pinpoint time goodbye. Roman Girard and just being tipped into a spin now, having Piotr Szczepanik for a company. And things are happening everywhere around the track as Jack Alexander going side by side with RWB Godzilla. Godzilla maybe trying to go around the outside into Variante della Roggia. Not the easiest move to be done, but Alexander does make it easier for him, although Godzilla gets the gravel on the exit and Alexander gets grass in return onto entry for first place. Tries to hang on to the position, but Godzilla in the Audi takes it. And now Alexander, look forward or look backwards. Forward is only one car, behind you 3 more. 2 of them being the M4s, which are in full force for this big grid event. And maybe McCain thinking of a move into Ascari, but just a little bit too far this time around. But you can see it materializing in front of your eyes, as Alexander probably does not seem to have the pace over these guys. But not having pace over guys like McKay, Mr. Git and Ollie Kirton, it's not a bad thing.
Yes, so I just had to cough quickly, slightly there. Meanwhile, we are now on board with Mr. Git in the battle of the BMW M4s.
Not the ideal place to be side by side. The red BMW goes through the escape hatch there.
Yeah, through down the escape road and through the styrofoam blocks, as Jones has come into the pits in the 84 BMW. And we've had a question in the chat from RWB Charger. How many are still racing? So I would go so far as to say
45 people have survived and are on server.
45 on server and about 40 or so on track by the looks of things.
I knew there would be some attrition early, that's for sure. And there's always technical difficulties to deal with too. Uh-oh.
Well, speaking of technical difficulties, it looks like Nico Perez had the technical difficulty finding a breaking point for turn 1, fighting off with Emil Sjöblom, and Emil being one of the reasonably fast guys. I had the opportunity to race with him in BMW team in, what was it, third season of Constructors, and he was a good driver. Sometimes consistent, sometimes if you put him under pressure, might find a few mistakes. All love, Emil.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to follow than lead, that's for sure. Somebody's pressuring you.
I don't know, I love being in the lead of something like that.
I like pressuring somebody, making a mistake.
Oh, speaking of mistakes.
Or the BMW M4 there having
Twice.
a very big moment at the exit of Ascari, just looping it and having a really lazy arc around into the wall on the opposite side of the circuit there, as this battle here between Nico Perez and Emil Sjöblom comes down towards the Parabolica now. Nico is gonna get past on the brakes there, as Josh Alexander is now showing as having a drive-through penalty as well for good measure. From what I can see, he is pitting to take that. Alexander being in the 15 BMW there.
Who's in the pink Lambo? Are they down a lap, or are they trying to figure out?
Rick Binnersley in the Lamborghini, who was one of the many drivers involved in what happened earlier on. And just reading through the YouTube chat at the moment, Chris Corbin, one of the drivers who was unfortunately involved, said, "I did what I usually do and hold the brakes, but being knocked around multiple times like that, I had no control over where I ended up." And he also said that the Audi got a better exit than me, and the Jag don't know if to get left or right, and clip the back of the Jag who got sideways and hit my rear end.
Chris was in the Mercedes.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the Merc.
Yeah, I thought that's where it started. I just couldn't really see any detail.
Still on board with Emil Sjöblom in the 747 Lexus, still battling with Nico Perez.
Good battle.
Position has been raging for some time now.
I think the lap car, he might actually just be as fast, but I think he's just being respectful and letting them battle.
will see on the brakes into the parabolica.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back at the front, it's still Oscar Sandberg leading from Eddie Warden and Moore and RWB Godzilla. We're currently on board with Mr. Git, and he's got John McCain right behind him in BMW M4 GT3s.
Oh, that's a
Honda right behind him.
Yeah, for Keaton.
A custom.
Oh, I think that's a goner. Or is it? McCain? No, it was just wildly to the left side.
McCain there is ahead, and yellow flags waving there. No, back again now. White flag indicating slow-moving vehicle on track. I don't see any slow-moving vehicles as Mr. Git runs a little bit wide there at the parabolica and lets Keaton through.
That's someone you don't want to lead through or have him behind you. So every time Keaton or Rolly is just behind you, you know what's gonna happen. You're just waiting, when is it gonna happen?
Aggressive.
It's
not aggressive, just fast.
Yeah.
Like fast.
Yeah.
Time when he's gonna pass you.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Like, you know, the classic names we have here: Ollie Keaton, Jake Moore, Godzilla as well.
Yeah, Jake Moore, also better known as Speed Demon, one of the gold-rated drivers in the Audi R8, and he is making an appearance on track tonight, and predictably, one could say, right at the sharp end of the field.
I mean, where else would you expect Racing Sim Tools esports drivers? Be sure to check out Racing Sim Tools, the leading setup providers and great IWB partners. And while at it, also check out SimSock. All the grip on your feet that you need for your sim racing deeds. Hey.
There's so many cars, it just means that there's just battles everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Good racing everywhere on the track.
I should get more of the drink. I'm getting nothing to ride.
Yeah, I've just noticed that Damien Vilk in the 28 Lamborghini is showing as having picked up a stop and go plus 10 seconds.
Is it usually a track limit issue or something?
That would be speeding in the pit lane, probably.
Okay.
You can get one for track limits, but I think that's after more than a few violations.
Godzilla and Moore are really hanging in there in the Audis. The Audis have some face here today, that's obvious.
Yeah, the Audis are doing pretty well indeed in what are perfect conditions in the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, in just outside Milan, Italy, actually in a park as well, for that matter. So you could call it Europe's National Park of Speed, La Pista Magica.
The Audi cars go around the outside?
Yeah, battle there between Sam Kruger and Magnus Dahlgren. Dahlgren just about holding on to the position there by holding the inside line, as Damien Vilk has come into the pits in the Lamborghini to serve his drive-through penalty. The number 606 Lamborghini there of Mad Out, just getting
past
there, yeah. So I was just trying to work out who that was he was battling with. In fact, I don't think he was passed. I think that was actually a lapped car getting back past. On board with Jack Camaletto in the Huracan. Has a think about it, not able to quite get the job done at the Varantia Ascari. Coming through there now, he gets a good exit though.
Done a good run there, yes.
Yeah, and Troy Adams is pitting for a drive-through penalty. Camaletto still glued to the gearbox of Mad Owl's Lamborghini.
Is that a Bentley behind them? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Bentley of Mikko Sky, as Troy Adams is now showing us having a stop and go class
30.
30, I think.
Yeah. I like the livery on the Bentley, the gold and black.
It's not even black. It seems to be more like
gray?
sand. Yeah. It is like gold and black. It's still slightly of like sandy color.
Yeah, like a beige. It's kind of...
Not beige, just something between goldy and like bronze probably. Or not even that. Like
brass.
copper. Yeah, brass or copper with that.
Yeah, more brass. Copper's more orange, I guess, or what the color is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good-looking car.
Let's take a more look at it. If I can find him.
Currently looking at
Oh yeah, there he's
Camaletto.
The 20th, I think.
Yep, he's just behind the battle we were looking at between Mad Owl
that's where I was.
and Camaletto. You can just see him in the background there. So, yeah, it's a very nice livery indeed. Thought Camaletto was going to have a look at the inside of Mad Owl there on the run into Ascari.
It is
They
nicely breaking the monotony of just gold and black. Just putting slightly different shade on the car.
And is it gray or almost green? It's kind of that black's odd.
Getting like dark black greenish color with orange. Yes, that gives me ideas.
Why am I not surprised to hear this? Why am I not surprised in the slightest, Racer? Meanwhile,
Less than 10 minutes left in the first race.
yeah, I know, these races do go by very quickly indeed. Meanwhile, we're looking at Phil Varley in the 55 Aston Martin. Nice to see Phil returning to racing in ACC as well. So, welcome back, mate. Hope you're having a good time on track. Currently got Marco Badowski right behind him in the 64 Lamborghini Huracan. Both of these guys are properly quick. Coming down to the Varantia Ascari now. Badowski's a long way back, and now we're back with Eddie Warden in the Assetto Corsa Competizione equivalent of a grandfather clock, the Jaguar XKR GT3. In fact, it was actually a nationally homologated car in the end because there was never any support from Jaguar. It was all Emil Fry Racing's own hard work which went into that car and developing it over the years. And in fact, I think the XK might even have actually been out of production by the time it first appeared on track.
Oh, wow.
And I think the F-Type was released in 2013, if I remember correctly. So it's not the newest car in the world. It's a bit of an antiquity, but here at Monza, it is still able to really do the business indeed. Board with Samuel Kruger in the Audi R8 LMS car number 37. Good run there on the exit. They've got BMW just getting out of the way there. Making sure it's clear now alongside Magnus Dahlgren.
2 cars.
2 wide heading into Ascari. And Kruger just about holds on to the position. doubt Dahlgren's going to try and have another crack into the Parabolica. Well, Matt Scherblum still pounding round in 26th place in the BMW M4 GT3. Doing a fine job indeed is Matt's there. Currently looking at MO plate in the Audi Sport Team Santalock liveried Audi. Of course, there are no factory teams allowed in GT3 racing, so this is totally not a factory car in the slightest. It is definitely a Santalock racing entry.
Anyway, AF Corse is just a customer to Ferrari.
Exactly, yeah. There's totally no additional personnel support, trackside engineering support, and a few works drivers being drafted in who are on the payroll, excuse me, of Audi Sport GmbH. But there we go.
Wasn't even the AF Corse founder surnamed Ferrari? Yeah.
Yes, Amato Ferrari is AF in AF Corse.
Wow.
You're right. Yeah.
Ferrari as fuck.
Yeah. Mo still pounding round quite nicely. Back with Phil Varley. Now things have settled down to a degree. Sort of. We might have time to do a quick rundown of the top 20. It's still Oscar Sandberg in the lead of the race. In fact, I can't quite see, unfortunately, who's in second to fifth. I know that. Oh, so there you go. Cheers. So we've got Eddie Warden in second in the Jaguar from Moore, RWB Godzilla, McCain, Mr. Git. Max Simmons doing well there in the big Nissan GTR in seventh. Then Oliver Kearton, MO plate. Florentin rounding out the top 10 for McLaren. Then Nathaniel Shirley, Debug, Samuel Kruger, Magnus Dahlgren, Ross Hayden, Marco Badowski, Phil Varley. In fact, it might well be Badowski and Varley having switched positions. Indeed, they have. Hasn't shown up on timing. Indeed, it does now. Then Jack Camaletto, who is right there as well. And then it's Mad Owl and Mikko Sky. Hodgson in 21st, Pinpoint in 22nd, Girard in 23rd, Perez 24th, Damien Vilk there in 25th, Matt Scherblum 26th, Butler 27th, and Xavier Eugenie in 28th. Still looking at Phil Varley, and he's still right there with Marco Badowski, which is no mean feat, I'll tell you that much. Both incredibly quick drivers. And Mad Duck UK saying that Manthey is definitely not Porsche.
Seems like a good battle. Is there somebody behind him too? Oh, they're only 3/10 back, I guess.
Yeah, that would be Camaletto in the 77 Lamborghini. The car behind Camaletto is not for position, but still keeping with him as Mikko Sky comes into the pits from 20th place.
No.
So not 100% sure what's happened there.
Maybe 2 laps left. 1, 2.
Trying to
2 minutes.
2 minutes. There's Buka Florentin in the 111 McLaren battling with Nathaniel Shirley there. What we have learnt from this race this evening is that this first race, excuse me, is that you can actually have 2 cars go side by side through a chicane.
Yes.
Yes, Max.
We're about to see it again. Oh.
Not naming any names as on the McLaren takes the escape road there.
Unnamed Formula 1 Mercedes AMG Petronas driver and Red Bull Racing Honda driver.
Maybe.
We need a little bit of fire heading into the conversations.
Oh, absolutely. Meanwhile, we're looking at Jack Camaletto in the Lamborghini. He's got a couple of other drivers behind him as Rick Binnersley is pitting, presumably for his stop-and-go penalty. Currently looking at Piotr Szczepaniak in the 39 Porsche. So Aston Martin, excuse me.
It looks like a Porsche, definitely, Rob.
Yeah.
Just the engine is other way around.
Yeah. But Oscar Sandberg has controlled the race from the start here this evening at Monza and is leading by a few seconds from Eddie Warden. Now, still looking at Camaletto here in 18th place. I think 18th place is still well into the top half of the field here, as Girard has come into the pits in the number 3 Ferrari as well for good measure. You can just see Eddie Warden in back of the shot there, as Oscar Sandberg comes out of the second Lesmo. Lots of real life racing experience in series like the VLN/NLS. So
real impressed with the top two, especially Warden. I tell you, both those cars. I mean, the Jag's fast here, but it's not easy to drive.
Oh,
it's really
absolutely.
easy to make a mistake.
Absolutely. And Oscar, like I said, does have a lot of real world racing experience and is very, very quick indeed as well to boot. As he comes out of the Parabolica now, Oscar Sandberg is going to cross the line to win the first race this evening here at Monza. Eddie Warden coming home in second place with Jake Moore there. Speed Demon himself coming home in third. RWB Godzilla is going to round out the top 4 now. And here comes John McCain, 5th place in the BMW, with Mr. Git just about holding on there against Max Simmons, and Olivier Kierton coming home in 8th place. A few drivers lower down the field also crossing the line. Nathaniel Shirley, Florentin, Debug, Magnus Dahlgren, Emo Play have all crossed the line. So does Damien Vilk down in 23rd. Ross Hayden has also crossed the line in 14th place. And to move back to pits, meanwhile, Phil Varley has come home in 15th, just ahead of Jack Camaletto there at the end. Marco Badowski, showing as being in 17th. Now Samuel Kruger coming home there in 18th in the Audi from Mad Al's Lamborghini. Pinners is rounding out the top 20 there in the Bentley. Nico Perez in 21st. Hayden, Vilk, Xavier Eugene, Matt Sherblum. 23, McLaren, Gerlov in 26th, Girard 27th, Butler 28th, Szczepaniak 29th, Burley 30th, Sherblum 31st. Most drivers have returned to the pits now. Wow, that was a
mouthful.
Yeah.
How many drivers finished? I don't know. Like, we started with 55. Maybe 40 something?
I think we started with 47 at the beginning of the race. A few drivers were hampered earlier on with damage, and after the first chicane, incident on the opening lap. But again, it's Monza. These things are sort of expected. And we are gearing up now for the second race this evening. Yes, one race is not enough for half an hour, so since it's still relatively early this evening, let's have a second for good measure.
everybody, I assume, drives the same car, correct? In the second race?
Everybody
Yep.
is still in the same car for this second race. I think there will be a few drivers who are unable to join us in the first race, joining us at the back for the second race. Oh boy, that's going to be a fun grid rundown.
So is there no qualifying for the second race? Do they start in the order they finished or reverse? Or what?
I think it's going to be based on qualifying position from the first race. So for the likes of some of the drivers who were unable to make qualifying for the first race, then it's going to be quite interesting
Hey,
in the
if we could
opening
just
few laps.
have a couple minutes here, I'll switch things around so we don't see the activate windows.
Oh, we have that. Nate, did you forget to activate your?
Just waiting now for the start of the second race this evening. Having a little bit of a break quickly first because, we do need one after a race that intense here at Monza. But yeah, what were your thoughts on it? In fact, we're currently on the grid now for the run up to the second race. Have I got time to do the grid?
No.
Challenge accepted. Okay, so on pole position, it is Oscar Sandberg in the BMW M4 GT3 ahead of Geert Fischer in another BMW. Row 2, it's Eddie Warden and Chris Corbin, Jake Moore and Jay Alexander on row 3, R Godzilla and Mr. Git on row 4, John McCain and Nathaniel Shirley on row 5. Florentin and Kierton are on row 6, Max Simmons and Emo Plate on row 7. Jones and Debug on row 8, Varley and Vilk on row 9, Dahlgren and Sky on row 10, Mitchell and Eugenie are on row 11. And Samuel Kruger is in 23rd on the grid ahead of Bouvier. Pinpoint and Mad Out are on row 13. Dev and Perez on row 14. Hodgson and Yerlov are on row 15. Ferguson and Binnersley on row 16. Shapaniak and Sherblum on row 17. Butler and Burley on row... Sorry, Vicain and Butler on row 18, excuse me. Burley and Sherblum on row 19 rather. So Burley and Sherblum are on row 20. Barton and Camaletto are on row 21 ahead of Badowski and Crawford Brown on row 22. Charger in one of the new BMW M4 GT3s is with Solberg on row 23. And there's still more cars to come as well. Hayden is in 47th on the grid, and I think that is the field. Ross Hayden.
Fantastic.
They're rounding out the grid.
One more time, but faster.
Oh no. Nah.
Do it one more time or I drink.
You did it 2 minutes faster this time, so yeah, very good, very good. That's way more difficult than it's hard. Keep up a good rhythm. Good job.
Cheers. I mean, it's funny because I know at Radio Le Mans the grid music for when Jeremy Shaw does the grid for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship and the Michelin Pilot Challenge is about 6.5 minutes long, and sometimes we do use up most of the 6.5 minutes. So it is always timed to perfection, though. So
let's see if we can get through the first chicane a little better than last time. They made it through the first part. There was no pile up in the in the braking zone. It was just the exit.
Yeah, it's just.
I mean, can it get worse than that?
No, not really.
I don't think so, unfortunately.
I mean, do not underestimate sim racing drivers. They find new ways to...
There's only so many places you can go once the carnage starts going.
Oh, yes. Hey. Absolutely.
Sometimes you're just along for the ride.
Hey, I paid for the entire game, so I'm gonna use the entire game, damage model included.
Here we go.
Here we go. Another warm-up lap here to come. This is why we're parked up on the grid and not on the back straight heading towards the Parabolica. Countdown has ended, so we're just waiting for the front row of the grid, Oscar Sandberg and Geert Fischer, to pull away now, which they do. Effectively, this means that Sandberg is the driver dictating the pace of the warm-up lap. Fischer.
I'd like to see the Mercedes and Fischer get through this. So there wasn't much time between the first 4 or 5 qualifiers, was there?
No, it was incredibly tight between the top 4.
Looking on it, Geert Fischer just flashing the lights, going to the turn 1, maybe trying to tell to Sandberg, I'll be here longer.
Mind games already.
I do that once and I get bonked in the steward's room.
Oh, yes. And
they don't let me flash.
Yes.
Be sad.
And unfortunately, forget, the camera was on him at the time, so there was no real hiding. Coming into the Verante della Roggia now.
Geert Fischer is trying to be as close as he can right now.
Yeah,
there is.
Very much.
Have a little fun.
Very
close. Oh, okay, yeah.
Indeed.
This is how baby BMWs are made.
Little head games going on prior to the battle.
Yeah.
And now I wonder if Fischer... Oh, that's a little bit too much mind games, please.
No running with scissors.
Well, let's see if he can keep up being that close in the race, because Sandberg has made a statement in the race 1 with his pace.
Well, there's something to be said about Sandberg. You know, he was out there driving the entire time, so that may help him kind of be in a rhythm.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure, especially the first few corners in particular. And well, we've even had incidents in the Blancpain Endurance Series, or GT World Challenge Europe, as it's called these days, at the Curva Grande on the opening lap, and at the Verante della Roggia as well. So yeah, the Rettifilio is not the only action point on this circuit when it comes to the opening lap. So really, it's just a case of trying to
get to the first one. They've got another one coming up real quick.
Well, with 47 cars on track, the action zone is first few laps.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, boys, side by side, nicely and neatly. Who is not in the line gets shot.
But now Sandberg is on the inside, Fischer on the outside. Sandberg still trying to get a bit more heat into the Pirelli tyres. Coming
Why is
up
Fisher
now.
so back?
I don't know, actually. It's gonna have to try and get a bit closer.
What's
As
he's not having technical issues. Here we go.
Sandberg has indeed backed off to let the field catch up to him. Coming up now to the start-finish line here, under the gantry where the podium is at Monza. And it's go at Monza. Another very good start from Oscar Sandberg, who's already been awarded a drive-through penalty, can you believe?
Whoa.
Well, that's maybe why he was so
Jump
far up,
start.
because he's away from his position.
Yeah, coming into the Rettifilio now. Are they going to keep it clean? Is anyone going to go down the escape road? Not this time. Oh, there's a couple of cars going off in the background. That's a BMW M4 which has been spun. There's another BMW being spun around in the background there. And Jake Moore in the Audi Speed Demon gets past Chris Corbin for 4th place, or should that actually be net 3rd place because of Sandberg's penalty. Just waiting for the field to cycle through.
Man, a good chunk of them got through though.
Ooh, yeah, John McCain having to shortcut the Verranti della Roggia there and take the escape road down
If
into.
you're looking for a place to like gather your thoughts and get your rhythm, there is no spot.
Unlucky for Gerard, he is. There's
2 cars off.
Yeah, it's a couple of cars, McCain being one of them, I believe. Let's see what happened here at the Lesmos. There's a BMW having a bit of a moment there. There's Keaton's NSX, that's Mr. Gill. Oh, it's a big pile up there, including Sandberg, in fact.
Yes.
Sandberg, Mr. Git. I can't unfortunately make out through the dust clouds who else was involved in that.
Look at the ancient machinery leading the race right now.
Yeah, Eddie Warden in the big Jaguar XKR. In fact, speaking of venerable machines, there was also an Aston Martin V12 Vantage, I believe, which was involved in an incident on the opening lap. Another car which dates back to around 2013. Currently looking at Phil Varley now, as Sandberg and Git are dropping down the order. No sign of Git Fisher as well, so I'm wondering if Fisher might have been involved in that incident as well, and we just couldn't see him through the dust cloud. One does wonder, given that, well, Fisher started second. He's not leading because that's Warden. So by the power of deduction, that means that he either has had a technical issue again or was involved in that incident. And indeed, there's Gert Fisher in the pits. So is one of the Mercedeses, that's Verkeyen and Sandberg, both taking drive-through penalties. Charger is in the pits as well. RWB Charger, Mr. Git Alexander in the pits.
Ooh.
I'm guessing to fix damage. Now looking at Crawford Brown in the 650S. Now is another good one. The Chief back on track in the 85 Honda NSX, and no doubt having a whale of a time as Troy Adams runs a little bit wide there in the Bentley, drops a couple of positions to Ross Hayden and Binnersley and Rick Binnersley and Magnus Dahlgren. Meanwhile, Marco Badowski is in 20th place with Mad Owl right behind him for company as well. Now on board with Douglas Mitchell in the 16 BMW M4. Seem to recall the M8 GTE having a similar cooling vent there, so I wonder if that leads to a radiator, and if so, what that radiator is cooling.
Transmission.
I'd say it. I mean, transmission would be a logical guess, I think.
Might be, since the engine is in front.
I don't think
Yeah.
the turbo intercoolers would be back there. I don't.
Well, you say the engine's in the. You say
You're
the
right, in the
engine's
front.
Yeah, it's
front.
not really in the front, to be fair. It's
I
more
mean-
front mid these days, as we see.
Well, all of them are mid-engine. Theoretically, yes, that's a dive and a half.
Oh, Troy.
All of them are technically mid-engine, but still some are more front-engine than the others.
Yeah,
And-
Sora.
In other words, they have the motors like really pushed back up against the firewalls. The front engine ones.
massively.
Yeah.
Massively. And I wonder if the needs of the GT3 car have in fact actually influenced the much talked about grille on the M4, that they've decided that actually, yeah, we're going to do what everyone else is doing and focus on making sure that the race car is catered for, so we can channel air to this cooler, air to the oil cooler, air to the intercooler, radiator, etc., so on and so forth.
Actually be. But then why
that's
would the
my
grill be
theory.
for the M3, since that one is not racing, unless BMW has some ideas into the future?
I mean, the M4 is just a two-door M3 anyway.
I mean,
Yeah.
M3 GT2, maybe?
Oh, not the GT2 class.
I don't know, anything. The M3 maybe, or the Super GT? Yes, no? M3 supercar?
Oh, maybe.
Oh, no, mate. Oh, yes.
Meanwhile,
With the
Chapania.
glorious.
Oh, the collision there.
Three of them.
They take,
Oh.
and I think they took Emil Scherblum with them, but
They
Scherblum
did.
somehow,
One of them got through, didn't they?
that was
I think.
Scherblum in the Lexus,
Holy crap.
somehow kept his foot in, although he's showing us parked up inside the track now, maybe we're going on board with the Lexus, so Chapaniak's on the inside, Gordon round on the outside, they come together and Scherblum has nowhere to go, another big old hit.
Man, there's an impact right there. Yeah, I don't think he can continue though.
Big old whack coming out the parabolica for Emil Scherblum in the very throaty sounding Lexus, and he has
There's a
returned.
guy on the inside either got tied or snapped loose, one or the other. Like he looked like.
I think the car just
Pushed
slightly
out.
drifted to the left.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Chapaniak, there was a McLaren 650S right on the outside of him in Crawford Brown. In fact, Butler is showing us having a drive-through penalty. Ferguson showing us having a stop-and-go penalty. Chapaniak and Gerloff are in the pits. So's RWB Ross Hayden. Oscar Sandberg is also showing us being in the pits. And now we're on board with RWB Charger himself in the M4 GT3. Currently looking towards the driver cam.
Look at him. Calm as cucumber.
Absolutely. Now on board with Mad Al in the number 6 Lamborghini Huracan GT3, coming down the pit straight now. Got Mitchell there in the BMW right behind him. And there's Marco Podolski in front of him. That's Xavier Eugeni there, who's a lap down in the background. And meanwhile, behind them, there's also Solberg and Pinners, RWB Pinpoint. So this is going to be quite a tasty wee battle here, methinks.
Oh, that's a dive. Who's that in the Audi? Is that Solberg?
That's
Yep.
Solberg is showing as being in
Oh.
Oh my.
needle there by the looks of things. Yeah, that was definitely maybe a little bit of a dive bomb. We'll wait and see what the stewards say about that. No doubt our wonderful
that was
stewards.
a beautiful dive bomb.
Oh, absolutely. It was clean, got the positions. So we'll see what our wonderful stewards say about it. Meanwhile, we're looking at Thomas Bouvier and Nico Perez in the battle for 17th place. It's Corbin in the Mercedes there, I think that was, just getting out of the way. Perez on the, now having to deal with the fact that Bouvier has got past, and he's now got the unbridled joy of having Marco Badowski for company. And you can see Perez just having a little bit of a moment there. He's now right on the back of Badowski's Lamborghini. See what happens on the brakes here. Yes, it stopped. There's the V12 Aston Martin Vantage, just in the escape road there. And I think waiting for this train of cars to go through. Synchronized V10 screaming there. Now back to Mad Al as the Mercedes gets back on, just behind with Pinners there at the Vanti della Roggia. Now looking at Max Simmons doing a sterling job indeed in the KCMG Nissan GTR.
The only one in the field, I think.
Yep, the only Nissan GTR running tonight. Doing a very good job on a track which you'd imagine would suit the big front-engined Nissan very nicely indeed. The only thing he has to worry about at the moment is the fact that he's got Olivier Kearton behind him. As Eddie Warden, sorry, the Mercedes in question we saw on track was not Corbin, as he's right with Moore. I do apologise. As the leaders come down the pitch straight.
Second and third are very close, but I don't know if... Is Eddie still pulling away? Is he pulling away from Jay Moore? No, he's not. He lost 10th that lap.
He's there and thereabouts.
Yeah, still pretty consistent, the gap between Eddie and Jake at the moment. He's currently with Samuel Kruger in the 37 Audi, currently in 13th place. He's got Mikko Sky just in front of him there in the Bentley Continental. Of course, this version of the Bentley Continental GT3 was also developed as a racing car as well as a big luxury Grand Tourer. Unlike the first Bentley Continental GT3, which was, well, I referred to the Jaguar as being as old as a grandfather clock earlier. The Bentley was about the size of a stately home owned by the National Trust. And it weighed about as much as one as well. The Bentley, still not 100% sure how M Sport managed to strip out a whole ton of weight, 1,000 kilograms, to get the Bentley from 2.3 tons down to 1.3 tons. So it could
2.3 tons.
Yep, just so the Bentley could sort of meet the BOP table.
Imagine just hustling 2.3 tons of T machine around Bathurst.
Rather you than me, is all I'll say. And given that you raced at Bathurst, yes, I know carbon ceramic brakes are all well and good in this day and age. You can't actually run them in GT3 cars.
Got a good battle for second and third.
Very tight here between Corbin and Moore. Still, the BMW's a lap down. Oh, no, it isn't, excuse me. Oh, no, sorry, it is. Nathaniel Shirley in 4th place is 6.3 seconds behind.
Right, the BMW's not in the fight, right? He's just
no, the BMW's just coming along with them for the ride as they come down towards the Varanti Ascari now. Just mentioning carbon brakes earlier, there was the short-lived FIA GT1 Championship back in 2012, which used modified GT3 cars. And one of the things they were allowed to run in that series to kind of make them feel more like the big old GT1s was carbon ceramic brakes.
Oh, wow.
And also they were allowed to take the exhaust silencers off. So if you thought the BMW Z4 GT3, well, for those of us who are fortunate to have seen it, there's a back marker, I think, going off there.
No, that was for a position.
Oh, no, sorry, that was, you're right, that was for position, you're right, yeah, I do apologise. Xavier Eugeni having a bit of a moment there. As I was saying, if you thought the Z4 GT3 was loud in person, then I can only dread to think how loud that thing would have been without silencers on it, other than nothing short of absolutely glorious, as Florentin and McCain have a little bit of a coming together there. It's a bit of a hip check at the Parabolica.
Was the Z4 naturally aspirated V8? I think it was.
The Z4, yes, it was.
Yes.
It was the same engine that was in the GTE car, which was quite funny when Mark VDS got permission to run the Z4 in the European Le Mans series for a season. Car that was not homologated to run in Europe, and they were told by the ACO, feel free to run it in the European Le Mans series, just please don't consider applying for a spot at Le Mans because we're saying no to it. And that is indeed what happened. And Andy Priaulx was one of the drivers that year from memory. Is Andy's son Seb doing a sterling job racing in America at the moment. And if Seb is anything like his dad, then he's got a long and fruitful career ahead of him, that young man. Andy Priaulx, one of the nicest professional racing drivers I've ever had the pleasure of speaking to.
Who's behind, is it Mitchell's behind Al, right? But then there's a lap car behind them and a Lexus? Is that a Lexus?
That Lexus will, I'm guessing, be Sherblum. Because I think Sherblum is the only Lexus in the field. I will double check. We have.
He's hanging in there. I mean, Al's kind of gapping him, but.
Yes, it is indeed only one Lexus for Sherblum, as Nico Perez has got a stop and go penalty. Troy Adams is coming into the pits. Sandberg is showing as being in the pits as well. Girard came into the pits at the end of the first lap. He had some issues there, I believe. You see Rasmus Yerlov in the 23 McLaren getting passed by the Chief there, but the Chief is going to have to tough it out around the outside at the Rettifilio. And you see another driver crashing through the styrofoam blocks there at the Rettifilio on the escape road. There's Jack Camaletto in 24th place in the 77 Lamborghini Huracan. I was going to say, Debug very, very kindly provided us with a lot of notes pre-race in our text chat. You see Camaletto getting past Xavier Eugeni on the brakes. See Dahlgren there in the background, and Rick Binnersley flying down the escape road. The escape road is actually...
lap.
Yeah.
Escape road.
And the escape road is actually what the LMP1 teams use when they're doing their pre-Le Mans tests here. To better simulate the Mulsanne. Oh, there's a hip check there between Dahlgren and Eugeni. And Dahlgren has to cut the chicane there. Lets Eugeni back past at the first Lesmo. Note to any wannabe Formula One drivers watching, this is how you let another driver back past after an incident on circuit.
Wondering how long it was going to be before somebody used that one. Oh, yeah.
If the other driver is not wanting to take the position, then...
Brake check.
No waiting.
Let's not go that way, okay?
Oh, boy.
We don't want to light a match to this race.
Oh, I was going to say, I know.
And there goes
that's Eugeni going off the circuit there, riding the wall as any good skateboarder will have attempted at some point. very difficult thing to do there because gravity is not on your side when you're doing it on a skateboard. Not that I've tried, I can barely ride one, I showed that. Meanwhile, Phil Varley is having a cracking run here in 10th place, battling with Nico Sky by the looks of things. He's got the Bentley there, just getting past him on the inside at the Curva Grande. But Phil, one of the gold-graded drivers, one of the 8 gold-rated drivers, in fact, in this field, keeping up with the Bentley there as they come out the Varante della Roggia. There's a back marker just getting out the way there in a McLaren, and there's Damien Vilk off the circuit as well in the Lamborghinis. The big old slide there from Miko Sky at the first Lesmo. You don't really want to be doing that there, as Damien Vilk is showing as actually having returned to the pits. Maybe damage in front of the Lamborghini of Damien Vilk did look like it was damaged, so that means that Phil Varley and Miko Sky are now battling for 8th position instead of 9th. A quick rundown of the field with just under 10 minutes to go. It's Eddie Warden leading from Chris Corbin, who has the fastest lap at the moment. From Jake Moore, RWB Speed Demon in 3rd, RWB Godzilla's 4th from Max Simmons, MO Plate, Debug, Miko Sky, Phil Varley there on his return to ACC, doing a sterling job in 9th. Someone else is in 10th. Kierton's 11th, Jones 12th. I'm having a little look at the replay between Dahlgren and Binnersley, I believe this is. Side by side coming into Ascari.
Awesome.
Dahlgren on the inside. Gets it done. Forces the issue
stay on the throttle on that Lamborghini on the curb like that. I don't think he had to back out.
Yeah, I really could tell Rick had backed out there.
You don't really have much choice when you're on that curb, at least most cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're on that curb, you are at mercy of the car on the outside, not turning in if you keep it in there.
Sent it on the, sent it a little bit too hard and has taken to the escape roads. So
here we go again.
He'll no doubt back off to let Dahlgren take the position and the inside line at Curva Grande, which he does, and gets back into the slipstream of the McLaren. Florentin's 14th, Podofsky 13th, Podofsky 14th, Solberg 15th, McCain 16th, Bouvier 17th, Mitchell 18th, Maddow 19th, Jack Camaletto in 20th place, Dev in 21st. We see Miko Sky battling with Varley, and Varley has got past him there on the run into the Varante Ascari.
Really like Varley's livery on the. Is it an Aston Martin?
Yeah.
I like that black and orange. It's
black and orange is good. I'm just questioning the addition of the red.
Yeah, I would just notice that. I like on the edge of the wing and then on part of the body. Yeah, I don't really.
I'm just like,
maybe yellow would have been better. I don't know what goes with black and orange.
Yellow. Do you want to go back to ING Renault?
The Austin's a nice looking car, I think. It's just fat.
Sam Kruger also getting involved in this little battle now as well, for good measure.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, sure is. Dahlgren is still ahead of Binnersley, meanwhile. I'd say that Aston Martin, if it wasn't for the red, you could say was inspired by the previous generation Ian Roderan intercity train livery in the Republic of Ireland. There's Debug just off the track slightly there, 7th place, as Kruger has got past Sky for 9th. Means the next drive behind Sky is Jones in the BMW M4. Headlights are on here at Monza. It is quite, I don't want to say dark, it's dusk, I think would be the better wording to use. We're back with AJ Jones in the BMW M4.
Corbin has slowly reeling Warden in. I don't think he's not going to have enough time unless Warden makes a mistake. But half a tenth lap.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be enough time, I don't think, for Chris Corbin. But what a way to make up for the incident in the first race.
Yes.
As well as a very good drive indeed from him. Here with Douglas Mitchell. You can see Xavier Eugeni's in 24th, ahead of Mr. Git. Alexander in 26th place, ahead of Hodgson. The Chief is in 28th place at the moment, with RWB Charger right there behind him. See Mitchell and Camaletto having a drag race down the pit straight, and Emil Scherblum right with them in the Lexus. We'll get to where Scherblum is in a sec. He is a lap behind these two, though. With just under 5 minutes to go. In fact, Binnersley has closed right back to Dahlgren by the looks of things, 1.5 tenths in it. Coming out the Retifilia, you can see Szczepaniak there. Also got behind Charger is Matt Scherblum in the M4, Emil Scherblum in the Lexus. RWB, Ross Hayden is in the pit, so is Girard. Ferguson is in 34th at the moment. Piotr Szczepaniak was involved in an incident earlier in the race, which is why he was involved in the incident actually with Emil Scherblum and Crawford Brown, in fact. Rick and Magnus still battling hard for position. Rick is now ahead of Magnus, so it's going to be interesting. And oh no, Chris Corbin has come into the pits from second place.
Oh no.
That is the Canadian driver in the 88 Mercedes. Late drama here at Monza. Wonder if he has had a technical issue. I am keeping an eye on the YouTube live chat as we speak. He's dropping down the field quite rapidly, unfortunately. Meanwhile, Sky and Jones are battling here. Jones on the inside, they've got a back marker there in a Lamborghini who collides with Jones.
That was not going to work.
Actually, was that a back marker or was that? I don't think that was Badowski, was it? No, it was Badowski. Marco Badowski sending it very hard and very late there. And it may have had a collision, not with Sky, but with the BMW M4.
He's catching the Bentley.
He is catching back up to the Bentley. No doubt the stewards will have a little look into that incident. With just under 3 minutes
Bentley got loose. Yep.
Yeah. Corbin has Chris Corbin has just dropped a message into the couple of messages into the YouTube chat. He took an inch too much curb at Ascari and ended up in the barriers, unfortunately for him. So such a strong drive so far, though. Till there, you
big curb.
Badowski really pushing that Lamborghini. He's overdriving it a little bit at the exit of Ascari there, I think, just the way he took too much curb and really unsettled the mid-engine car somewhat. He's all crossed up on the way into Parabolica as well. As John McCain has come into the pits in the BMW M4 GT3. Stay with Badowski here because I'm wondering. As we move to Samuel Kruger's Audi, he's got Solberg with him, and right in front of them is the train almost between Jones, Sky and Badowski. Meanwhile, another update from the drivers. Guy really battling hard to keep Badowski behind him. Update from Damien Vilk. Had a drive of my life chasing 6th until got absolutely destroyed by other driver losing control. Racing. Go Lambos. Terrible. Bad luck there for Damien. It was an incredibly strong performance from him. Meanwhile, Kruger and Badowski and Skyers all well and truly kicked off as I was...
Oh, a bit of a touch.
Yeah. See Solberg there in this 4-car battle for 4th between... Sorry, so not 4th. 4-car battle, excuse me. For
that Bentley, you know, it reminds me so much. I mean, I'm American, so it just reminds me of big pushrod V8s, the way it sounds.
Yeah. Big low rumble from the twin-turboed brute from Crewe up in the north of England.
Of course, the new Corvette sounds a lot different than it used to. I mean, they have flat plane crank now, like Ferrari.
Yeah.
So the Ferrari motors. I mean, the Corvette motor is. Oof.
I mean, they don't call it the American Ferrari for no reason.
Yeah.
It very much is an American Ferrari now.
It's come a long way over the past 4 or 5 generations, that's for sure. Because they used to be, they weren't very good cars, but they are now.
The current Corvette C8R is actually going to be detuned for the GTD Pro class for GT3 Cars next season in IMSA, whilst Corvette work on developing their own GT3 car.
Are they? I didn't know. Are they developing one? Good.
Yes, they are.
I mean, I would assume that they're going to run something in the Daytona, and I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, the GTE car detuned, but meanwhile, Eddie Warden, as the white flag is out to mean the last lap, Eddie Warden in the big old brute Jaguar XKR crosses the line to win. Very good drive from him. Jake Moore second. Max Simmons bringing the big KCMG Nissan GTR home in third, just ahead of RWB Godzilla and MO Plate. Strong showing there from Audi. MO and Godzilla running the Audis in the Constructors' Championship. No doubt very encouraging indeed from them. RWB Debug has got Badowski right there with him, and Varley in the battle for 6th place. They're coming up to the start-finish line now. I think Debug has done enough. Yes, he has. Debug has done enough to come home.
I thought he was going to run wide there for a second, you know? I thought he was going to have to lift.
Ahead of Badowski, Varley, Jones, Kruger, Solberg, Sky dropping a few positions there, unfortunately, in the Bentley. Bouvier in 13th, Florentin 14th, Jack Camaletto 15th, Olivier Kierton in 16th place. Mad Al just about to come home in 17th place, which he does. Then it's Rick Binnersley in the Lamborghini, just ahead of Magnus Dahlgren. And Adev coming home in 20th place. Xavier Eugenie 21st. Mr. Git 22nd. Alexander 23rd. Hodgson 24th. Charger. Cracking job from him there. 25th. Matt Sjöblom 26th. Sorry, 27th, excuse me. Emil Sjöblom in 28th place as well from the Chief. There in 29th. And lots of messages in the text chat. Girard there as well, just behind Corbin.
Bad luck for Corbin again.
Yeah.
Well, not bad luck, but I guess he did take too much curb. Yeah, I think so.
That's a scary, very easy to do as well, but wow.
That was a good race.
What
Looks
an
like the
evening.
Jag got some redemption there on the second race. It was a really good drive by him.
Yeah, cracking.
Impressed with the Nissan too. The only Nissan in the field finished what, third?
Yep.
Third. Yeah, that's good.
But behind the only Jaguar in the field, which finished first.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a race, proof that some of these older cars They say you can't teach a dog new tricks. Well,
It's an old
Yeah.
track.
yeah, I think tonight very much says otherwise. Any thoughts from you, Racer?
Not many. Just 100-year-old car winning on almost 100-year-old track. I mean, doesn't get better than that.
Absolutely.
Some good sprint racing from the boys. A little bit of mistakes here and there, but 47 cars on the track, they behave themselves nicely, and surely they'll come back for another one very soon.
Absolutely. And speaking of very soon, in the not too distant future, we have All Request Thursday coming up on Automobilista 2, where we could have, anything. You request it, we'll race it. On Friday on Race Room Racing Experience, we have the 1995, or should that be 1995 Deutsche Tourenwagen Meisterschaft, presented by RWB and RRL. The race being at Road America, which is going to be absolutely cracking fun to drive. And then on Saturday, we have the RWB Endurance, the final round of the season, the Kyalami 9 hours. Going to be an absolutely phenomenal day's racing there. And then the Saturday after, on the 18th, we have the Battle of the Bands, which is also going to be a good laugh. And no doubt I will be getting dressed up in my finest Iron Maiden band merch, given that the dress code is album liveries. Well,
are you gonna get drunk as well?
Oh no.
Cheers.
Oh, absolutely. But that was
dress up as a rock star, live as a rock star.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that was another fantastic evening's racing here with RWB International. My thanks to Panda and Nate for their assistance with the cameras tonight. My thanks also to Slip Angle and Racer for co-commentating tonight. I've been Rob Lomas, and it's bye for now.